All right, let's check in from last week. How did it go? For the veggies and salads, who tried the kale salad? How did it go?
Awesome.
Family liked it?
Yeah.
It's like a win, you can't lose. Toasted garlic breadcrumbs. Nice job. How did it go eating organic? Better. Made some different choices. Fantastic. Come on in.
I talked about the EWG,
Yeah.
the
Environmental
working
Working
group, and the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 50 in my classroom with my students.
Oh, cool. What did they think?
They didn't know what to think. I'm always bringing in random things to them, but yeah.
How's it affect their potato chips and their Fritos, right?
Yeah.
Their toffees.
Right.
Their Cheetos.
Nice. How about slowing down? Better. Did anyone try the 80% full method?
I did, because I even tonight, I cooked my little pork medallions, but I left some in the pan. I didn't put them all on my plate, and then I ate, and then I decided I wasn't hungry. I didn't need more.
Nice.
So, yeah.
You too, Jane?
Mm-hmm.
It went well.
Yeah, just trying to be paying more attention to if I'm full or how full I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my veggies in.
Trying to get it in. Yep.
That's hard.
So I did the chia with the kefir this morning with blueberries, and I was full, and then I had like 2 scoops left, and I ate it anyway.
And sometimes it's that like negotiation that's like,
Yeah.
is this really enough to save? You know?
Exactly, that's
It
why.
is. The answer is always yes.
Yeah, because it was just 2 scoops, and I thought, oh, either that or my dog gets it.
Did anyone try the stop method? Stop, take 3 deep breaths, observe,
Oh.
and proceed.
No.
I had my coworker tell it to me though.
Oh.
Yeah. He goes, I have my nutrition class that teaches this. Oh, it sounds familiar.
Yes.
I'm having a hard time with the veggies. If I put in a bunch of veggies, then my carb count always goes up.
Yeah, because of the fiber. Yes.
So that, I figured that trick out.
Yeah. So one thing is if you're eating a lot of veggies, but you're also eating a lot of carbohydrate-rich foods, it's going to be about modulating, eating more of the veggies and less of the really carb-rich foods. If you're truly only eating veggies as your only source of carbs, maybe it's okay to go over 100 grams.
Or then you should cut down the fiber.
You could go to net. Yeah. And that's level 2 is we turn it into net carbs.
Okay.
Because veggies have a lot of fiber. And that's a good thing.
Not as much as I thought when I was looking at it's only 3 carbs. I mean, 3 fibers.
All right, we have a dessert recipe for you today. I made it ahead of time because it needed time to chill and set. And I sometimes struggle with whether to give you dessert recipes because I know that we're typically really good at eating dessert already. But it's almost like, abstinence only doesn't work, right? And so we're teaching safe desserting. A better option,
Especially with the holidays.
especially with the holidays.
Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Yes. So these are pumpkin fall dessert bites. They are a cream cheese based dessert. I whipped them with a hand mix blender until they were kind of lighter and fluffier. It's got a sunflower butter in there. I did that because not sunflower oil, sorry, sunflower butter, and that's just, blended sunflower seeds. And I did that so that if anyone had a nut allergy, they could still eat this. You can use any nut butter that you like. Organic cream cheese, extra virgin, unrefined coconut oil. I used a raw honey. A lot of the honeys are pasteurized, meaning that they heat them to potentially kill any bacteria that lingers in the honey. But when you do that, you also kill a lot of the beneficial enzymes in the honey. And so a raw honey is less processed. For the dairy-free option, I used a Kite Hill cream cheese. That's a pretty good option. Pumpkin. And you could use pumpkin pie spice. I use cinnamon and nutmeg in these. So I'm gonna hand them out so you guys can try them right now. Feel free to take one. If you're dairy-free, hold off and I'll bring you yours. You're welcome. is one dairy free. Great. I'm just gonna reach for you. You grab two. Oh, do you want a dairy free?
Yeah.
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 Perfect. Thank you very much. And one back here. Feel free to try them. I kept them in the fridge. They're a little bit chilly. You can also keep them in the freezer if you like that like really hard tooth feel. This would also work as a full pie. You could easily make a little graham cracker crust and then fill it with this exact same recipe. So good option for Thanksgiving.
What would you use for the graham cracker crust?
Probably just graham cracker. You could use nuts. You could do like an almond or macadamia nut crust. You could do like a more standard graham cracker crust. You can add flax, ground flax into your crust or chia seed to make it a little more nutritious. Yeah.
Have you made it with other nut butters?
No, I have not.
You've always just used the sunflower.
So the nutrition factors, the size that I gave you was about, I would say, a third of a true serving size. The balls are like a rounded teaspoon size. I made them really big because I wanted to cut them up. So like 2 rounded teaspoon size balls is a serving size. That's pretty big. That's like 4 bites.
That was enough.
140 calories, 28 grams of fat, only 3 carbohydrates, a little bit of protein. These are not very nutrient dense, I will say. However, they're also not spiking your blood sugar and they can be satisfying for a little treat. You guys like them?
Yes.
Very good. You can make them spicier if you like ginger. You can add some ground ginger in there. That would be good. Cool. Let's talk about fat.
Yeah, it was right there.
Yeah. All right, digestion. Digestion of fats, that's the breakdown of fat. So imagine you're taking a bite of your pumpkin bomb. The first thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna chew it, hopefully, chew it. And when you're chewing, you also have enzymes being secreted, lingual lipase. That's a fat-specific enzyme that breaks down your fat in your food. After you swallow your pumpkin bite, which you just did, it's traveling to your stomach. The stomach is a very muscular organ. It's churning, it's got contractions and undulations, and that's breaking down your food. And then another enzyme called gastric lipase breaks down that fat a little bit more. And then when it's small enough, it goes into your small intestines. In the small intestines, we have bile. Bile is produced by the gallbladder. It's held by the liver, secreted into your small intestines, and that breaks down the fats even more so that they're the proper size for absorption. We also have another enzyme called pancreatic lipase working as well. So fats don't mix with water, and our blood is primarily water-based. So we really need to make sure that we're breaking down our fats into the tiniest little microscopic droplets so that they can be absorbed and transported through our blood on carrier proteins. You can think of this as like when you have a really fatty dish that you're washing and the detergent helps break down and wash the fat into the water. We have that same thing. Our bile is a detergent in our body. So once things are digested or broken down, then we need to absorb them out of our GI tract into the body. And we do that by forming these little packages called chylomicrons. Those are just ways to get that fat transported in the blood. So it's protecting the fat so that it's, hydrophilic, if you're chemistry majors out there, able to mix with that watery blood. It's going from the lymph first and into the blood. And you're sitting here, probably not using a ton of energy. So if you're eating a lot of fat and then your body isn't sensing that it needs to be used for energy right away, then it's gonna get stored for later use. And that's a really good thing. You want to be able to store fat for later use. So here's a little representation of that. We have feasting when you're consuming anything, protein, carb, fat. It gets stored if it's excess. So if you don't need to use it right away, it's gonna be stored in the form of body fat. That's to protect you. That's your insurance. And when you're fasting, say you haven't eaten overnight or for 12 hours or 16 hours maybe, when you eat food, you'll use more of it immediately for energy. Less of it will be stored as fat. And if you don't eat when you're fasting, then our body will break down the energy from our stored fat to use. So simple, right? Seems simple. Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit. Cholesterol. The demonized word in our society. Cholesterol is a superfood. It's a super substance. We cannot live without it. It is critical to health. Cholesterol strengthens your cell membranes. Every single cell in your body needs cholesterol to move and bind and behave properly. It helps the doors of your cells open and close. Cholesterol is the basis for most of our sex hormones. Also vitamin D, cortisol, it can talk to your DNA. Cholesterol is part of bile. We cannot make proper bile if we don't have enough cholesterol in our body. So it's required to help you break down your food. And if you don't have enough cholesterol coming in, it's definitely going to show up. It's going to impair, if you're a kid, it'll impair your growth and development. If you're an adult, fully grown, it can impair your digestion, your reproduction, the way that you're repairing or recovering from an injury, and also adapting to stress. Very important for stress. It makes you beautiful. Enough fat and cholesterol in your diet gives you that plump, hydrated skin appearance. If you're on a low-fat diet for a long time, you're gonna start to notice your skin doesn't bounce back the same. It doesn't have that dewy appearance, maybe starts to look dry, fine lines and wrinkles set in more readily. Your brain needs tons of cholesterol. There's lots of very sad stories about autopsies of people who have died from neurodegenerative diseases, who were on low-fat, very low-fat diets, and their brain mass is so small compared to what it should be. Cholesterol makes up a lot of your brain mass. And so we've definitely talked about HDL and LDL, but I want to show you what those are. So those are those transporters that carry cholesterol through our blood. Because remember, cholesterol and fat, it doesn't mix with water. It needs to have something pulling it along. Chylomicrons, that word, that's the biggest, shortest lived vesicle that's carrying fat into our body, into the lymph and the blood. And as that ages, it becomes smaller and more dense. It's the same package over time. So HDL, high density lipoprotein, it's the longest lived particle on a lab report. So say you have HDL compared to LDL, HDL has just been around longer. And because of that, it's picked up more things and it's packed them tighter and become more dense and smaller. High density versus low density versus intermediate density versus very low density. And chylomicron, that's our biggest, shortest lived transporter. Proper amounts of high density lipoprotein, that small dense particle, it means that the mechanisms in your body are working well. There's enough HDL, long-lived enough, that's scavenging enough cholesterol. However, we also need LDL. We don't get HDL unless we have LDL. It's the exact same particle, it's just a different phase in its life cycle.
So does it start at the top with the big one?
Yep.
Okay.
And then over time, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So you can think of LDL as a delivery guy. It's out to make a delivery to your hungry cells. Neither LDL nor HDL are always good or always bad. We tend to think of LDL as the bad cholesterol and HDL as the good cholesterol, but that's not really the full story. They're both good. We never want to have too low LDL. We also don't want to have too high HDL. It's not that simple. And whether your diet is good or not so good, it doesn't depend on how much fat or cholesterol you eat. It depends on the types of fat and cholesterol you eat. The types. Certain fats, we'll talk about later which ones, are prone to reacting with the oxygen in our bloodstream, and you can think of that as like little fires in your bloodstream. Really bad. We don't want any oxidation to happen to fats in our bloodstream. And the best way to make sure that you don't have those fires or that you can put them out is to eat a really nutrient-dense diet, healthy fats, and avoid smoking. Those are the 3 biggest contributors to reducing oxidation. That's little fires. So if you get your blood, say you go to the doctor twice a year and you get your blood results back, and they say your triglycerides are high, your LDL is high, your HDL is low, really what that's saying is you're eating too much sugar, or you're smoking, maybe, could be, or you're eating toxic seed oils. Those are the 3 things that really contribute to those out of whack ranges on a blood chemistry. However, there's also something called familial hyperlipidemia, which means you have a genetic component to it. Your mom had really high cholesterol. Your kids have high cholesterol. And if that's the case, it may not be a risk factor for you. Research has not shown that people who have a genetic component of high cholesterol, triglycerides, whatever it is, have a higher risk overall. So we want to lower any risk by eating healthy fats, avoiding toxic oils, getting in as many nutrient-dense veggies in your diet as possible. And if you're doing that, if you're avoiding toxic seed oils, you're avoiding high fructose corn syrup, even if your LDL is high, you are no longer at high risk. You can have a high LDL on your blood chemistry and sleep well at night knowing you're not at higher risk because you're avoiding those sugary foods, those sodas and juices, and avoiding toxic seed oils.
Doctors freak out when
They do freak out. I got my blood work back a month ago. Slightly high overall cholesterol, but good ratios. And I got a 1-line recommendation from my doctor: eat a low-fat diet.
Oh.
Period. That's it. That was my recommendation.
Okay, and sending a sheet of a low-fat diet?
No.
Bad.
Nothing. Okay, so if you have blood work at home that's recent, I encourage you to, I'm going to send this out on Saturday, do these calculations and figure out if your ratios look okay. Total cholesterol divided by HDL, you want to see 3.5 or lower. That's your lowest risk. LDL divided by HDL, ideally under 2. Triglycerides divided by HDL, ideally under 4, preferably under 2. And you can just go through line by line with your calculator and calculate it out. Some blood reports, I think LabCorp gives you LDL divided by HDL already done for you, but the other ones, they don't. Homocysteine and C-reactive protein are really good markers of total body inflammation. In other words, they're good markers of little fires. And so we want to also be tracking those. Your doctor may not run these unless you ask for them. So next time you go in for your physical, ask, I want to see homocysteine and C-reactive protein.
And they say why, and I'll say.
Inflammation.
Casey said so.
You can say inflammation. I want to see my inflammation. And this is fuel. This is power to you so that your doctor doesn't look at 1 or 2 markers and say, you need to go on medication. Maybe you do need to go on medication. That's possible too. Don't go against your doctor. It's not the moral of the story, but I want you to have the knowledge to know what do these numbers mean and what is my risk truly. Questions? Okay, so fat, our dietary fat, does not pose a health risk unless it's made of our toxic seed oils, if it's combined or cooked along with processed sugars, so think of funnel cake, donuts. If it's highly fried or processed, if it's eaten without adequate omega-3, lots of research to coastal communities, and typically you find, like for instance Japan, lots of rice. Japanese culturally, traditionally, eat a lot of rice. However, they eat tons of seafood high in omega-3s. So there seems to be a protective effect of omega-3, even in cultural, societies where there's higher carb intake. And there's other things going on there too. The biggest risk for elevated lipids, such as cholesterol, LDL, and triglycerides, is your sugar intake, 100%.
Now, you have on there especially processed sugars such as fructose, but isn't fructose naturally in fruit? So does it not count if you're eating it in its original form versus processed?
Yes, exactly. High fructose corn syrup. If you have non-alcoholic or alcoholic fatty liver disease or type 2 diabetes, you should avoid agave. Agave is primarily fructose. So that could be a bad thing for you to include in your diet. Here is our good old fat chart. We have our good fats on the left.
I like the tallows, I've gotten that, the beef and that, cooked my steaks, and
Yeah.
it's really good.
In the middle, we have okay but not great. And then here on the right, these are the ones we really want to avoid. Anything in there that's surprising to you?
Fake whipped cream.
Yes, Cool Whip.
Yeah.
It's canola oil based.
How about the ready whip?
Oh my gosh, look, most salads.
Still canola oil based.
Look at that, most salad dressing.
Almost all, even if it says olive oil on the front of your salad dressing,
Yeah.
always read the label.
Most chips. Most chips.
Does this mean you can never have, excuse me, chicken nuggets again? No.
Make your own.
But you should make your own, or try to find an alternative that you can live with.
Can you peel the outside off? It sounds goofy, but, and eat the chicken in there, would that work?
I think it's permeated.
Oh,
Yeah, and probably it's in the blend too.
okay.
But Chick-fil-A has grilled nuggets.
Oh.
They have grilled chicken nuggets,
Okay.
but I think they're done not in peanut oil, so
They used to use peanut and they don't anymore.
they don't use peanut.
I think the blend of the chicken probably has the oils in it too. That's my inkling.
What would you use peanut oil for?
What would you use it for? Probably frying.
Frying?
It has a higher smoke point,
Yeah.
so you can heat some,
For
heat
deep
it
frying
higher.
turkey, they use peanut oil.
Peanut oil. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So how do we find a healthy balance of fat? Always avoiding anything labeled low fat or fat free. Always trying to go for the fats or the animal fats that are as closest to the source as possible. So for example, a whole chicken with the bones, with the skin, is always a better choice than a boneless, skinless chicken breast. Fat buffers the glycemic spike of protein. So if you get rid of all the fat on your chicken, you're making it more sugary in effect. You're making your insulin spike more.
Okay,
Wow,
so
it's the opposite.
something tells me that the rotisserie chickens at Costco are enough.
I would imagine they're probably using toxic oils. I don't know for sure.
Okay,
If next time you go, see if you can find an ingredient label.
okay.
Let me know.
Well, that won't be till the 26th, 7th, they don't have them.
Avocado, cheese, lard, nuts, butter, all of those are great. Go for pasture raised if you can. Avoiding those factory made seed oils. And there's tons of research on this, but one in particular that I like to bring up is from 10 years ago. So this is, well in the past. A meta-analysis of 17 trials of about 1,200 obese adults, not a rat study, that found on a low-carb diet significant decreases in BMI, body weight, abdominal circumference, systolic blood pressure, triglycerides, fasting insulin, C-reactive protein, and an increase in HDL.
Does that mean the people on this diet also went for the healthy fats?
That's a great point. I don't know. If it's 17 trials, I would imagine they're not as strictly controlled as what we are talking about here.
I'm just
And
curious.
even so, they had these results.
Yeah.
Okay, so you cut out your sugar when you're gonna do a treat. Okay, this is, I've always imagined like Godiva chocolate and all that kind of stuff is okay because it's expensive and it's fancy. But I have a feeling I'm going with that's a no.
I would have to look at the ingredient label.
Okay,
Yeah, at first, when you start to cut out these ingredients, it's work. You have to do more reading because you're flipping everything over and learning and finding out. Eventually, you start to learn your brands that you can trust.
okay.
It's a no.
It's a no. Thank you, Phyllis. She did the work for you.
Sunflower oil.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're just making me feel
I was
worse.
looking through all the categories.
I just,
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why low-fat diets don't work is because when you take fat out of someone's diet, what do you replace it with? Sugar. Carbs, processed foods. Exactly.
That's when the business will eat fast and then all these sugar, fat-free
Snack wells.
candies and.
Yeah. Exactly. And sugar is what's causing that, the little fibers, the problem of oxidation. Other questions? It's very countercultural, what we talk about here. And I know it can be a little scary at first. If you're currently on medication to lower your cholesterol, talk to your doctor and tell them, I'm doing this new diet, maybe you want to get blood work done a little more frequently. I'm highly confident that adding real fats into your diet will not cause negative health consequences. I wouldn't be standing up here telling you to do so if I wasn't firmly confident in my belief. We've seen hundreds of people benefit from this diet and this style of eating. But everyone's different. And I would definitely involve your doctor in the conversation.
It's interesting if you have a stroke, if they put you automatically on like Lipitor or cholesterol, even if you don't have cholesterol.
Yeah. The diagnosing or the criteria for prescribing a statin, the biggest, most strongest criteria is your age and nothing else, which is a problem.
We're old, doesn't mean we're broke.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's why I come here. That's a great thing, and I've seen that with people my age, they just keep adding that, and then the one that I'm on, I took myself off after I read the side effects. And I monitored my blood pressure and everything.
Good.
But they didn't told me that side effect.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. We're gonna talk about fasting briefly. No one in here is in level 3 yet, but it's still really good information. Does anyone know the word hormesis? Hormesis. This is exposure to a mild stressor that, upon recovery, results in a beneficial adaptation. Can you think of any hormetic stressors that we're currently doing? Strength training, yes. It's not good for you in the moment, necessarily, but as long as you're not overdoing it and you can recover, it makes you stronger. And fasting is the exact same idea. It's a hormetic stressor. During the fast, you're not really benefiting, but if you're doing it in the right dose, at the right time, and you're recovering from the fast, you benefit from it. And so that means if you're doing a fast of any type and you feel unwell, you're overdoing it. Your fast shouldn't feel dangerous. It should feel maybe a little hungry, but generally you should feel normal, like yourself. And if you're fasting too often, you're probably overstressing your systems. I see this a lot in women. I did a fast and it worked really well. And so I'm gonna do more fasting. And that's gonna work even better. And then eventually, you're fasting all the time, and things crumble and fall apart because you can't recover from it. So we want the right amount of fasting.
So it's the same like workout, you gotta have enough time between your workout. and
Exactly.
recovery.
And that can change. You could get better at fasting, or you could have a really stressful life event and not fast anymore. Maybe there's too much stress going on. So you really have to look at your life, the full picture of what's going on.
So it's not good to eat like just 2 meals a day or whatever, and have like the 16, or like not break your fast until 11 or something like that.
Well, it depends. If your body has adapted to that and you're fine with it, maybe. But if you're starting to notice like your workouts are getting worse, if you feel tired, if you are sore all the time, if your sleep changes or it's, you know, you're waking up more during the night, those are signs that you're overdoing it.
You're overdoing your fast or you're overdoing your workouts?
You're fast. Yeah. It's a good question. Because you can also overdo your workouts. Overtraining syndrome, it's a similar thing. Too much stress and not enough recovery. So totally, Karen, that's a good point. But if you can find a rhythm and a length, duration of fasting that works for you, there's so many benefits. If you type in fasting PubMed right now into your browser, you will be shocked with thousands of articles and the benefits of fasting. Weight loss or maintenance, decreased whole body inflammation, improved gut health, which is probably what decreases your inflammation, improved blood lipid ratios, reduced waist circumference, improved hunger and satiation cues, improved mood, energy, better lean tissue or muscle growth, better skin health. Lots of research on the benefits of skin health and fasting, and improved sleep.
Well, your skin's your largest organ,
Yeah.
and that's where people are healthy.
That's a great point. So lots of benefits. So fasting, once you're in level 3, if you're already fasting and it's working for you, and you're not feeling like maybe you're overdoing it, I would continue with it if it's working. But for level 3, we're doing 3 24-hour long fasts once a month. And basically a 24-hour fast, it's like skipping breakfast and lunch. You're eating dinner, skipping breakfast and lunch, and eating dinner. That's a 24-hour long fast.
So I was thinking, that'd be all day till the next morning.
Yeah, that's a good.
You could do that.
I guess it'd be the same.
Yeah. You could-
Sleeping part of it, you know, that's good. I guess it is the same, it's just when you
Yeah.
start it.
So during your fast, you're not consuming anything. Drinking water with electrolytes, salt, lemon juice, cheapest Gatorade you ever bought, same exact thing. Bone broth is totally fine. You can drink plain teas. You can drink black coffee. You can have 1 to 2 servings of heavy cream in your coffee or your tea throughout your fast. And exercise. If you're prone to dizziness, if you already know that you have blood pressure issues, or if you feel really fatigued during or after your workouts, don't do your small group training session during your fast. However, if you are not medicated, have no history of symptoms, if you feel good that day, go for it. Tell your coach that you're fasting, but go ahead and do your small group training session. You can also do walking, stretching, light movement, light like restorative yoga, totally fine. If at any time during a fast of any length, you start to feel unusual dizziness, shakiness, mood swings, high irritability, more than normal irritability, headaches, nausea, if your heart feels like it's racing, if you start to get hot and cold, stop the fast. It's too much stress, it's not beneficial anymore.
Okay, so is there any benefit to like having, like if you only do it for a couple hours? It doesn't sound like there's any benefit to, like, you know, obviously when you're sleeping, you're not eating.
Yeah.
So there is some fasting there that we, get a good.
Yeah,
Does that help? Does that
totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Absolutely.
But that's not 24.
Any amount of fasting can be helpful depending on you and your goals.
Okay.
For somebody who's struggling struggling to get in enough food and nutrients, or somebody who's on medication, insulin, or something for type 2 diabetes, you shouldn't fast. That's not right for you. But for somebody who has steady, healthy metabolism, who doesn't have, or isn't taking medication for those types of issues, fasting can be really beneficial, and you could start with just cutting out snacking between meals. That would be a good first step. The next step might be shortening your eating window from, say, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 12-hour window. The next step might be shortening your eating window, say 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Shortening, and then maybe you try a 24-hour fast. Same with strength training. We don't want to deadlift 200 pounds right off the bat. You'll hurt yourself. So same thing with fasting. We want to go slow. Okay, let's take 5 minutes to fill out your weekly watering. There is a coach's choice question. How does the concept of hormesis affect how you think about eating and exercise? All right, go for it. Weekly watering number 3.
It's a protein. What is the cutoff in eating, like how late is too late to eat a meal? Because that was sort of different things, you're saying like 8 p.m. and I've heard 6 p.m., so I'm curious.
In general, you want to stop eating 2 hours before bed. Yeah, so it'll depend when you go to bed. If you look at like traditional Chinese medicine, then they'll say that there's a right time to eat and a wrong time to eat, and that could affect you too.
Well, in work, I catch myself after open to 8, because I'm on a trip and there's a, unless you're in a tourist area, you don't expect everything open to like 8.
You go to Spain.
Portugal.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me say. Let me finish my veggies. When I cook my zucchini, cooked, a cup of raw doesn't break down to a half a cup. The still is like 3/4 a cup, because I don't cook it to mush.
Yeah. I would measure it raw then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd say the other two.
A cup isn't enough. I usually eat 2 or 3 cups.
Yeah.
of vegetables.
Go for it. Doesn't mean you have to stick to one serving.
I hadn't thought about that because I kept thinking I wasn't getting enough vegetables, and then they're like, oh no, it's like a cup or half a cup. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing very good.
Except for spinach.
I'll spinach, you could put a whole bag in there.
That is one serving.
I noticed that, yeah.
Whole bag is one bag.
Wow, except changing my thinking of serving,
Yeah.
that, oh, keep on putting on.
While we're doing this, does anyone need to be measured? Can help measure.
I haven't been measured yet.
You want me to do your belly button?
Not really, but sure.
Well, then in a couple of weeks, I'll have her do it again and see how you do it.
Yeah.
You gotta start somewhere.
Gotta start somewhere. Pop into my office. The hall.
So what all do you put on your
is how things are going with, you know, it's kind of like lifestyle changing now that you're doing. Like it's forced to go get vegetables, it's forced.
Kinda told me I'll fix my t-shirt with it.
Just wear the same one next year.
It's like they used to once a month, and then maybe they raised. And it's like, I went like, hey, this is gonna be embarrassing. This year. It is disappointing when you start reading. Unless it's organic and start reading, you have like organic.
It's not.
Alright. Hey, who lost weight last week? Nice job. Who lost measurements last week? Nice job. The work is working. Good job. Alright guys, have a good night. Thank you for coming. I'll see you next week. You're welcome. Oh, okay. I'll miss you. I'll send you the recording.
Yeah, no shame.
Bye. Make sure you sign in if you didn't sign in on Zen Planner.